Ukraine's drone campaign is redefining the battlefield, but Russia is fighting back. For much of the war in Ukraine, military planners believed there was a relatively safe zone behind the front lines where troops, fuel, ammunition, and equipment could be moved with less risk. That assumption is now being challenged. According to recent reporting from the Associated Press and Reuters, Ukraine has rapidly expanded the use of medium range drones capable of reaching targets dozens of kilometers behind the front, placing increasing pressure on Russian logistics and forcing Moscow to adapt. Today, we'll examine how this new phase of drone warfare is unfolding, why these aircraft have become such an important part of Ukraine's strategy, and how Russia is responding. As always, battlefield claims remain difficult to verify independently, and both sides continue to release information that cannot always be confirmed in real time. This report is based on recent reporting from the Associated Press, Reuters, and comments from defense analysts. One of the biggest changes over the past several months has been Ukraine's growing use of what are commonly described as medium-range strike drones. These systems are designed to operate beyond the reach of small frontline drones, but short of the very long-range drones used for strategic attacks deep inside Russia. According to the Associated Press, these drones have begun closing what had previously been a gap between frontline operations and long-range strikes. That gap allowed Russian forces to move fuel, ammunition, reinforcements, and supplies with relatively lower risk. Ukrainian commanders now say that those routes are increasingly under pressure. Cite Turn News 10. Rather than focusing MBAT, Ukraine is attempting to disrupt the flow of supplies that keeps Russian forces operating. Military analysts have long noted that logistics play a decisive role in warfare. Delays in moving fuel, ammunition, replacement equipment, and personnel can reduce the effectiveness of combat units, even if those units themselves remain intact. Associated Press reporters who visited Ukraine's K2 brigade described command centers operating from ordinary office buildings, where drone pilots monitor live video feeds and wait for opportunities to engage military targets moving behind Russian lines. According to the report, the brigade launched hundreds of medium-range drones during a recent month, with commanders claiming a high proportion successfully reached their intended targets. Those operational claims have not been independently verified. Cite Turn News 10. Another important DevTelite communications. Recent reporting says many of these drones rely on Starlink satellite internet to maintain communications over longer distances. According to both AP and Reuters, Ukrainian officials and analysts believe the campaign became more effective after unauthorized Russian access to Starlink services was disrupted earlier this year. Ukrainian operators say this improved their own operations while complicating some Russian drone activities. Reuters notes that these claims come primarily from Ukrainian military personnel and analysts, while SpaceX has not publicly commented in detail on every operational aspect of the conflict. Cite Turn News 10, Turn News 9. But every M followed by a countermeasure. Reuters reports that Russian forces are increasingly deploying electronic warfare systems designed to interfere with satellite communications used by Ukrainian drones. Ukrainian commanders interviewed by Reuters also describe efforts by Russian troops to camouflage supply vehicles, use civilian-looking transport, disperse fuel storage, and alter transportation methods in an effort to reduce their vulnerability. Sasite Atern Zir News 9. Military analysts caught a sense the normal cycle of technological adaptation. One side introduces a new capability, the other develops countermeasures, and both continue modifying tactics in response. Samuel Bendet, a researcher at the Center for Naval Analyses, told the Associated Press that sustained pressure on logistics can make it increasingly difficult for Russian forces to support some sectors of the front. However, he also emphasized that Russia possesses significant manpower and industrial capacity, meaning it may eventually adapt to these challenges over time. Cite Turn News 10. One area receiving PAR southern Ukraine and the land corridor linking occupied territories with Crimea. According to AP, Ukrainian drone operations have increasingly focused on transportation routes connecting occupied Mariupol, Berdyansk, Melitopol, and Crimea. Ukrainian commanders argue that repeated attacks have forced Russian logistics onto slower and less efficient routes, although the full operational impact cannot be independently measured. Site Turn News 10. Reuters similarly reposts continued targeting supply infrastructure supporting Russian operations, while Russia has expanded efforts to protect key transportation routes and logistical assets. Site Turn News 9. The broader picture of alley warfare has evolved since the beginning of the conflict. Early in the war, inexpensive commercial drones were primarily used for reconnaissance. As the conflict progressed, both Ukraine and Russia began converting civilian technology into increasingly capable military systems. Today, drones perform surveillance, artillery correction, precision strikes, electronic warfare support, and long distance attack missions. Military observers increasingly describe the war in Ukraine as one of the world's most important testing grounds for unmanned systems. Both sides continue investing heavily in new drone technologies while simultaneously developing electronic warfare capabilities to defeat them. Despite Ukraine's recent successes reported by Western media, analysts caution against assuming these systems alone can determine the outcome of the war. Drone strikes may disrupt logistics, slow troop movements, and increase operational costs, but they do not eliminate the need for traditional military operations on the ground. Likewise, Russia continues adapting. Reuters reports that electronic jamming, improved air defenses, mobile anti-drone teams, and changes in supply procedures are becoming increasingly common. Whether those adaptations significantly reduce Ukraine's effectiveness remains an open question that analysts will continue monitoring in the months ahead. Site Turn News 9. The larger lesson extend. Military planners around the world are closely watching how relatively inexpensive unmanned aircraft are influencing modern warfare. Conflicts that once relied primarily on artillery, armor, and aircraft now increasingly feature autonomous systems, satellite communications, electronic warfare, and artificial intelligence working together on the battlefield. For now, Ukraine's expanding drone campaign appears to be placing additional pressure on Russian logistics, while prompting increasingly sophisticated countermeasures. The battlefield continues to evolve rapidly, and both sides are adapting almost continuously. As always, the situation remains highly fluid, independent verification remains difficult, and developments on the ground can change quickly. We'll continue following verified reporting as more information becomes available. Thank you for watching. If you found this report informative, consider subscribing for more fact-based coverage of major international developments. We'll see you in the next report.